Hey, podcast fans, you're going to absolutely love what we're about to do. We have Ben Rhodes-Kropf, one of the youngest founders in the history of this ecosystem, Link Studio. And I heard they have big news. They're absolutely crushing this. I cannot wait. He's going to be coming up any second now. We're going to do a quick walking tour, and then we're going to podcast him and find out his whole life story. It's going to be just epically awesome. So let's do it. So Ben, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
This is your home, right? You grew up right here.
Yes, yeah, I grew up near here. Grew up in Newton. I think, goodness, it was a 20-minute drive over here, and very excited to be back. Great to see you. Good to see the lab and how it's growing, and excited.
Yeah, things are gangbusters here. The AI tailwind is like nothing we've ever seen, and I keep telling people about the day that the internet was invented, and they're like, "What are you talking about?"
What are you talking about, man? Switchboards and all of that.
Yeah, but it's, there are these long dead spots in the economy and people don't appreciate it. And then there are these moments in time where everything is changing. And we're right in the middle of one of those right now. And that's why I was so excited to actually spend this time with you today, because you're such an inspiration for this whole class of people that are like, I'm a freshman or I'm about to become a college student. And, am I going to miss the window? And I do a little bit of teaching, so I have to be careful what I say, but you don't.
Yeah, exactly. I get to walk into those classes, and I'm like, all right, listen, just drop, run.
Yep. Run. Well, you're an inspiration in a couple of ways. One of them is run. Like you're running, you and your team are running like no one I've ever seen. It's physically impossible to work harder than you guys are working.
That may be true.
And then the other thing is that your dad is actually this crazy, awesome, super popular professor at MIT. And a lot of people are like, what am I going to tell my parents? Well, imagine your dad is a professor and you're saying, hey, I know I got into MIT. I'm not coming. I'm doing this company with my best friends. We're going to absolutely crush it. And then, maybe I'll come back later.
Yeah.
And that's a tough conversation to have with your parents. But imagine your parent is...
Yes. Yeah, so. I 100% tough conversation. I think the really interesting thing there is, as a family, we've always really valued education. Yeah. And there is no other way than being a founder to learn more in less time. Yeah. It's like you get an MBA every single week. You get to fly into a different, warehouse or operation or entire billion-dollar company and understand exactly how they're working across the entire stack from the ground up. And you get to do that every single week relentlessly and think about how you can solve their problems.
Why don't we start with that topic, because that's a really important one. So your co-founders, you got into MIT, your co-founders were in Berkeley.
Correct.
Normally, one of the biggest roles of going to college is like your co-founders that you would have met in high school or middle school are not the right co-founders.
Yes.
You get into a place like Berkeley or MIT and you're going to find tons of great
100%.
co-founders. But you, without even arriving at MIT, managed to find the perfect co-founders.
Yes.
Now, that's not disconnected from, like, somehow you were at Han Lab, which I can't quite figure out. You tell me, how were you at the coolest lab at MIT when you hadn't even gotten in yet?
Yeah. So I was at, I think it was Delta V. I was at one of the demo days, chatting around, talking to different people. Bumped into Mark, as you know, and Mark was like, okay, I know these crazy AI guys. Yeah, it seems like you're interested in similar things. Go chat, go talk, go figure it out. Yeah. And so Mark made the introduction. He's very close, I believe, with the rest of the Han guys. Okay. And so that's how I had initially gotten in there. And then, oh my goodness, they're here. They are just incredible at what they do. Yeah. But really, I got a chance to spend that summer just learning a ton about all of the different quantization techniques. How are people making these models small enough? And I think really gave me a sense of understanding to look up to in terms of, okay, this is what's possible. This is what's coming. There's a whole world that's about to be unleashed. How can I go be a part of that?
So give me one more level. Like you're at a Delta V event. That doesn't get you into an MIT lab naturally. And you're one of the most engaging people I've ever met. So there must be some conversation.
So conversations, those kinds of things. I think it was really great that I could have that introduction. I think Mark at the time had a lot of faith and confidence in the kind of things I was working on. Having sat down and had a few conversations with him. Yes, yeah.
What were you working on as a high school student?
So as a high school student, I was actually building a few different things. I had learned C# and I was building video games actually, all sorts of video games, mobile apps, all these different things. And so I was just really interested in actually Unity, the game engine I was working in, had just come out with RL environments.
Yeah.
So specifically, all of these like physical embodied AI. This was like physical embodied AI, but not for robots. Like they were thinking about this for video games. They were like, man, wouldn't it be cool if in a first person shooter we could train all these things to go and do different tasks or whatever kind of environment and those kinds of things. Yeah. And so I got very into this sort of like RL world because I was just I was like, oh, this is cool. I can make these very interesting games focused around these types of things. So I was always tooling around with that, having a lot of fun there. And then I was also very lucky. My high school computer science teacher, while I was still in high school, was giving us the papers to Attention Is All You Need. And so sort of these hallmarks.
What year were we talking about here?
This was my freshman year. So this was going to...
freshman year in high school?
Freshman year in high school.
You're reading
Attention Is All You Need. And like...
That's insane.
So we were...
What high school is this?
So this is Milton Academy.
No,
yeah.
This is
Milton?
Okay.
And it was amazing.
Who's the professor? Or
Mr. Hales. Mr. Hales.
Right.
And he, one of the former students, his, I think, parent or related to the head of Google's external search engine. Okay. And so they were having him, and he was teaching us, basically every week about how do these search engines work and transformers and all of that stuff. And so I got this like very early look at these kinds of technologies. And that was back when frankly, LLMs were not very useful. You could barely get them to tool call or do anything. But it was very clear that this was going to be a paradigm in how technology worked. Yeah. And eventually how technology was built, which is funny how much that was first. I hadn't predicted that it would actually change how we coded first before it went and changed the rest of the things. Yeah. And that was very exciting to see because that just accelerated my growth and development.
Yeah, so that makes you probably one of the first people on the planet that's AI native from childhood, basically. Like your entire...
Early. I've never thought about it that way.
Well, think about it. Like you're 21 now, right?
Yep.
And the Attention Is All You Need is 2017. It's now 2026. So it's been 9 years now since the transformer breakthrough. And so if you're 21, you would have been like 12, 13?
Yeah, right when that initial paper was written, and then I was reading it, X number of years.
So basically from the moment you were sentient, essentially.
From the moment I was toying around with this
was in the world. So you're like the tip of that entire spear.
Yes.
I talk about this or think about it a lot because when I was exactly that age, the PC was invented.
Oh, wow.
And we were one of the only people in the neighborhood that had a PC. I was writing code. Everyone's like, I don't even know what that means. And the high school had, some TRS-80s and some punch cards. but that ended up sweeping the world. And I was like, why is not everybody doing this? This is going to be massive. And so now we're doing the exact same thing with AI, but it's got to be millions of times more impactful.
Yeah.
And so, being kind of born into it with lucky to have a computer science teacher who was way ahead of the curve.
I was very, very fortunate to be thinking about those kinds of things at that point. And it's funny you mentioned sort of the first laptops and PCs coming out. Some of our customers are still using like IBM, 2s or AS400, AS9, like AS400, the green screens with like these kind of terminal style systems. Our customers are doing hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue running their operations on these systems that are literally booted into their basement. So it's amazing the long tail of technology adoption as well, right? There's definitely moments where you can sprint, and there's where capital is really free floating, and you can go and get a ton of stuff done. Yeah. But it is also amazing that there is this. We're going to be doing this for a while. I mean, think about how long the internet took, and it'll be faster. And I think there'll still be a very long tail in terms of businesses that are not adopting AI and thinking about that.
Well, if you really zoom out, there's a lot of technology improvement that isn't really relevant. It's kind of like window dressing. So, the computer comes out, it's massively world changing. So then, your customers adopt the computer to do their record keeping or whatever. So they didn't skip the computer.
No, they didn't. They got the computer. Yeah.
So then it kind of dawdles along. Windows comes out. You can put a GUI on it, but it doesn't really change anything.
Exactly. Yes.
So then the internet comes along. You're like, okay, this is a fundamental game changer. The internet is fundamentally. So then they hook up their green screens to the internet, and problem solved. Stumble along, don't really move forward, and everything's different, glossier, but it doesn't matter much. Then then AI comes along.
Yes.
This is like the internet step function all over again, but much, much bigger.
Yes.
And now you must adopt.
Yes.
And to some degree, they'll be rewarded. You remember how when cell phones came out, basically all of Africa and a lot of Asia skipped wiring the entire country and went straight to the cell phone and saved a ton of time and money.
100%. And
your customers are going to be like, they'll skip straight to AI and they'll have saved a ton of time.
Saved a ton of time. Yes. Yeah. And I think a big one for our customers is that they didn't see much value in going to the cloud. So when you could host your whatever ERP in the cloud, they were like, it does the same thing. It's lower latency. I'm plugged into it.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, that's a good point. And so that was very interesting to see the step function shifts.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because the side effect of that, the cloud dominated venture investing for a long time there. But a lot of customers are like, I just don't need it. Plus, I don't trust it.
Sure.
But the byproduct of that is a couple of years ago, the class that I was teaching at MIT, the Foundations of AI Ventures, I had this slide up that said, as of today, there isn't a single self-made billionaire under the age of 30 in America. Not a single one.
There's
not a
single self-made
billionaire under the age of 30. It's the first time in 15 years that sentence has been true, because there were tons of self-made billionaires under the age of 30 with Mark Zuckerberg and the whole the whole internet revolution. But then the whole cloud thing was just not that big a deal.
Yeah.
And so now you're going to see. Well, Brendan Foodie and Adarsh Hiremath, the Mercor founders.
Sure.
They're just down the road from you in SF.
Yeah.
They just broke the record for youngest self-made billionaires ever.
Right. Yes.
And so there's a whole wave.
There's a wave coming.
Yeah. Like basically everyone you hang out with.
Yeah. A lot of those guys. And it's funny. I was talking with Mache and Nelson the other day, and it's like we because of the places we're going, we spend not as much time as we should in San Francisco. We spend so much time on the road with customers, understanding their problems, changing those things, that it's funny how much these, when you're thinking about these forward deployed companies, there's these oddities in them that you would have never imagined. And so we've spent some time thinking about that and sort of how is that impacting the way that we're perceiving the world and the kinds of things we're thinking about and problems we're solving.
Do you remember the day that we met and where we met?
Was it here? Are we talking about this meeting, or was it?
No. The very first time I ever saw you in my life, it was at Kresge.
Kresge.
Yeah, it was the Liquid AI launch.
Yes, actually. Yes, I do remember this very well.
I was sitting with your dad. We got the governor and a whole bunch of other big shots to come in for the Liquid AI launch. So I'm in the front row at Kresge Auditorium, the biggest auditorium at MIT.
Yes.
And I'm just talking to your dad, and then
we started chatting a little bit, and I think I was very opinionated at that time on some of that technology and what was happening there because I had been spending all this time researching this type of stuff. And I remember, that's a good point. That was a fun conversation.
So you came down the aisle. Your dad had said, you really got to meet my son. He's the coolest guy in the world. And I was like, okay, everyone says that about their son.
Exactly.
Turns out he was the one guy telling the truth.
All right.
No, your dad he's by far, he's the best professor at Sloan by far. And I think he maybe the best at MIT is so we got to talk about the guest lecture class that you did too. Let's come back to that.
We can.
So anyway, you come down the aisle, and you were in the middle of your cross-country road trip. So basically, you had gotten a bus or a van or something, tied a raft to the roof.
Pretty much.
You were driving it from Boston to L.A.?
We I don't know if we had decided. We were just somewhere in California. That gives you a sense of the planning that went into this operation.
Okay.
We were about halfway through that journey, I think. We had flown back for a temporary break because of just, goodness, it's 10 people in a tin can trying to make it across the country.
That's good practice for a startup.
I just posted the other day about this, how similar the keeping teams aligned and moving forward through whatever the heck is thrown at them is the same, whether you're stuck on the road breaking down in the middle of, Fort Benton, Indiana, or whatever it is, or facing some kind of problem with a customer or whatever it is, making sure that you can keep people aligned and moving forward is surprisingly common across different domains.
I'm so glad you said that, because I see that all the time. And any kind of high pressure situation. This is why the former military guys do really, really well with startups too. It's any high pressure situation where you have to deal with the interpersonal dynamics and pull together as a team. They're all the same.
Yep.
And they all port directly to startups, especially super high growth startups like yours. So so were Matish and Nelson on the bus with you, or were they?
Mache and Nelson were not.
So Mache.
So those were my high school friends that we had built the bus with, and we were rolling across the country with them, and then actually. I had strapped a Starlink and a generator to the top of the bus I had met Nelson and Maciej earlier when we had all gotten into Berkeley.
Okay, so you already knew them.
So knew them. Nelson at the time was working at this lights and wire harness manufacturer in Aurora, Illinois, making like lights and wire harnesses for actually Oshkosh, Humvees, and these kinds of military vehicles. And
so that's where the genesis
comes from. And I bump into Nelson. At that point, I'm this East Coast kid studying AI, really just like, okay, this wave is coming. I bump into Nelson and I'm like, I'm sorry, what? They're printing these papers and like shuffling them across a factory floor, and this is our industrial base. This is our military industrial base, and this is what's happening. And so I was really fascinated by that problem. And so I was just like, hey, I'm on a gap year. I'm on this bus. Like, let's just start working together on this problem. So on the bus, traveling across the country, and actually as we made it to California, we decided to submit a Y Combinator application. So the Y Combinator video application is like us on Zoom screens, and I'm on a bus, and there's like a desert rolling by in the background. And so it was I don't know to this day if Jared actually watched that video where he was just like, all right, these kids seem crazy, I'll just take the meeting. But as we were making it to California, I was like, I know some great guys at Berkeley, Maciej and Nelson. Yeah. And as we pulled up to Berkeley, we found out that we had the YC interview a week from that day. So I step off the bus, I start sleeping on a dorm room floor, and we start trying to figure out how to make this a company. At that point, Nelson is working at this one lights and wire harness manufacturer. He's built a very, good but rudimentary prototype of their processes and operations. Yeah. And it's like, okay, how quickly can we make this something? What is the number one thing we can do before meeting Jared that will guarantee success in that meeting? And so we start cold calling. We got as many friends as possible from the Berkeley dorm together. We all arrive in an empty classroom, and the government lists all of the manufacturers publicly. Mm-hmm. You have to, if you're doing work with the government, pick up the phone and just dial, just nonstop. It was horrendous.
You're not even incorporated at that point in time.
No,
you're just
no incorporation. Three guys.
Maciej, is that right?
Maciej
and Nelson, were they roommates?
They were.
So so you're sleeping on their floor.
I was sleeping on their floor. Yeah, we've got Nelson's mom was kind enough to send us a nice coffee machine. So every morning everyone wakes up, coffee. All right, cold calls. Let's go. And it was quite a chaotic time trying to figure out how sort of our military industrial base functions and works through phone calls, trying to get past the front desk secretary to whoever's behind the machine or whoever's in management and talk to them about their problems and the things they're working on.
Any advisors, any generals in the family or anything like that? I know you had Air Force grandparents or something like that.
Yes. So my grandfather and great grandfather were both in the Air Force. They're quite old now, but really also that was part of the genesis of what made.
Were they able to help in any way, or are they just
not too much? I think they.
So you're literally just cold calling, starting with nothing.
Nothing.
Government records.
We have one company that Nelson used to work at that's using this piece of software to help them quote these government contracts. And so the government every day. I don't know if you've seen War Dogs.
Yeah.
So the government posts, they still do today. Yeah. They post the things they need manufactured on that website. And it looks exactly the same. That's a great movie, and then there's all of these different companies that go and manage all of the government's critical components across the country.
And the lights and wire harnesses or whatever it was that Nelson or Maciej?
That was Nelson.
That was Nelson?
So Nelson, and then Maciej, when I met him out at Berkeley, he was actually doing research in Poland on the Human Brain Project. So, and he could tell you this way better than I can, but essentially using AI models to understand how different drugs might impact the human brain and simulating that. And I think the biggest problem for them was you can't simulate every neuron when you're doing a drug study because it was just so compute intensive. And so it's how can you use AI to model those neurons under those kinds of systems. And so I was blown away by that. We start nerding out, and then we're like, who the heck is this cowboy? And that was kind of the genesis.
It's pretty crazy, though, to think that he's working on something that AI forward, and you were in HonLab, which is HonLab, just for context, is where all the quantization and ultra-fast neural network research happens at MIT. It's a very small group, though. What, maybe 15, 20 people?
Yeah, it is. It's incredibly small. They work incredibly hard, and it is just impressive the amount of stuff that they can put out in even a small few week span. Yeah. So that was really interesting to just get to experience and be there while I was in high school.
Well, but that experience for you and Maciej's experience, it's so easy to see how the instant connect must have been incredible.
Connect. He's like, we're trying to figure out all these efficiency problems and simulating neurons. I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh God, that's so cool. So the first thing I remember after meeting you was hearing, I think through your dad, that you were starting a company for real. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, we use the Fred Wilson rule here, where like anytime you have three best friends who are incredibly technical, all three of them, and you trust them, you invest every time. And so anything we can do to help a company at that stage, we always try and do everything possible.
Yeah.
So I wrote a text over to Mark Pincus and said, hey, these guys are going to set up shop in SF, not here in Boston.
Correct.
And Mark at the time wanted to set up an incubator. He has 2 empty office buildings out there.
He does, yes.
And I said, these would be the perfect 3 guys to be the first thing in your future incubator space if you can get invested in them. So I think you went over and had
we had lunch.
Coffee or lunch,
we had lunch at Mark Pincus's house.
Yeah.
It's funny. So we start talking about the government and procurement and how messed up these processes are of how our military is managing billions of dollars in critical components and trying to get them to our troops on the ground or just military readiness in general. Mm-hmm. And at the time he was heavily invested with DOGE and that, and so he actually was like, hey, you guys should join DOGE. And we were like, we did consider it. We had a pretty lengthy conversation with him. Yeah. At the end of the day, we were like, hey. We think this will actually do on net more good for the government if we can sort of work around these systems and make them much faster. Like we recognize that part of this procurement problem was both on the government side and in industry.
So he legitimately wanted you guys to move to DC and all work directly.
Yeah, he was like, hey, you
DOGE.
guys, I have great connections to DOGE. And we're like, oh wow, okay, very interesting. He does. And we came back and said, hey, how about instead you invest? And we're going to go and figure out how to do this sort of on the commercial side, which is also incredibly slow and messed up because I think there's this, it's funny, I think maybe this is Paul Graham, when we got a chance to meet him, he had this really great line about how if you work long enough with the government, you become like the government. And so a lot of these military companies
scary,
have become just also like the government, where they're kind of slow moving and it's fine. And so our entire process becomes really slow. I think the government right now has a backlog of like 80 weeks of parts. If someone in the government wants a part, it'll take them like 80 weeks to even get a request out. And then it'll take like another, maybe, 4 weeks before someone comes back and quotes it. And all of that happens. Whereas, you have demand sitting in the government. You have a procurement officer that needs to get this part to, whatever troop unit or thing. And it has to go through this crazy process of procurement. And so actually now the government is privatizing a lot of their supply chain. And that's creating a huge opportunity for companies that can help.
It's funny how that, Elon was there, doing DOGE at the time and thinking that it would work. And then Mark Pincus, I had just been walking Pacific Heights with him, and he was like, I'm thinking of moving, like physically moving to DC to help out
to try to make this happen.
And then he's trying to recruit you.
Yeah.
In this alternate world,
there's
of you
are
there still doing
where
it.
The 3 of us go to DOGE and go try to solve that procurement problem, same problem
thing.
In the government.
Do it from the inside. And then there's the real world where that stuff never happens.
Well, it didn't happen. Yeah, it didn't happen.
For all 3 of you.
For so many
Elon,
different reasons.
For Mark, or for
yes.
Well, I mean, you get into this, it's never going to really happen, like kind of world. Like you said, you become like the government. Everything starts going slower. You're living the fastest conceivable life. I mean, it's impossible.
It's like drinking out of a fire hose.
So you would be going to probably one of the slowest conceivable lives.
Yes,
maybe.
That's
not going to happen.
Although I think the DOGE guys are doing really good work and trying to move quickly. Is it still going on at all?
It's
still happening.
Never heard about it.
I haven't stayed in touch too much with I actually haven't gotten a chance to even get in touch with them that much. But from what I hear from different friends in the government, that they are working and they are doing some cool stuff. I wish them the best. It's very controversial, but if you can sufficiently bring government efficiency, that would be amazing.
I don't think it's controversial at all. I think there's so much waste. It's like it's just got to get done. It's just that for a person at your age with your ambition, it's such a buzzkill.
It's hard. It's hard. Yeah, it's definitely. I think we're very excited to have made the decision we made and stay strong through that.
Yeah, rightfully so.
Cool.
So Mark ended up investing?
Mark did end up investing.
Has he been helpful?
He has been pretty helpful. We actually, he hosts an annual poker tournament. So we go play poker with him and he's got all these really cool people there and a lot of interesting conversations. And so that has been really awesome. He's someone on the cap table that, it's just a lot of fun to, be able to talk with someone that has that much experience and expertise and, the whole world of startups.
Yeah, well, one of the first things I find really interesting is that given a chance to move into his beautiful, spectacular office building, you guys said,
We said
we're going to save half an hour a day by working in our underwear as soon as we wake up.
Yep. Yes. Well, yeah, 100%. We really took co-living to heart. Yeah. I think that was probably another one of those decisive decisions. I think any company on their founding journey or even beyond, there's these like moments where it's like a 10x outcome of like choosing the right choice there. Really extrapolates a lot of other things. Yeah. It sets culture, it sets business speed, it sets all of these other things. And so I think there's been a few of those for us. And so, looking back now and seeing, okay, that was a big one. Another one was actually, instead of working directly with manufacturers, working with distributors. So working with these very large aggregators managing the supply chain and identifying that as sort of a critical bottleneck to make our supply chain run quickly. Yeah. And sort of there's been a few more now that we're working on that we see as really huge sort of potential to accelerate.
I'd love to, why don't we do a quick whirlwind tour of what the company is so people can level set. I have so many questions about what you just said. Let's start with SalesPatriot, what do we do?
Yeah, so SalesPatriot is essentially a operating system for various supply chain teams, large OEMs and distributors. So essentially, all of these different operations have very complex supply chain requirements. So you can imagine in the simplest case, let's say I'm Oshkosh. Oshkosh is actually one of our customers. They're the largest military vehicle manufacturer in the country, possibly the world. And they are constantly receiving requests from the government, from foreign militaries, from all sorts of different people. And then they need to manage that supply chain. Imagine managing, all of the parts on your truck.
And these are all mil-spec parts, so they're not like Walmart.
No, this is not Walmart. No, this is being manufactured by some, potentially a guy in his garage, potentially a major industrial, wire harness manufacturer like Aurora Defense or any of that. And so Oshkosh's job as the prime is to manage the sustainment often of these massive vehicles. Yeah. And so often what happens is you have foreign militaries, because the U.S. is also now selling these vehicles abroad and these different things, and they're all requesting all of these parts all the time. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine the amount of critical compliance that you need to process through, and the amount of just different steps you need to manage to be able to actually ship. I don't know, maybe your door has fallen off. Ship a door from wherever it is, Oshkosh. Ship a door from Oshkosh all the way to a military in some other country.
Europe
somewhere, whatever it is. And so there's a ton of paperwork. There's a ton of communication. Okay, first off, do I have this door in stock? If not, where do I need to go to get it? Yeah. Do I need to go to, the guy that manufactured it? Maybe that door was actually assembled from 5 different people and they all came together, they put it together, and then they shipped it to me. So now I've got many different nodes of supply chain criticality there that I need to go and manage. Yeah. And so right now that's done by, a team of close to 100 people managing that supply chain, picking up the phone. In fact, a lot of those employees have all-night dialers. There's a person on the phone 24/7. If they need to call Oshkosh at any time to get a part, there's like the nuclear suitcase of a phone.
Hard to reconcile that with an 80-week backlog.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I got to call right now to get in the queue, and it'll be here in 80 weeks.
Exactly. So the military's tried all these different ways to go and make this faster. Some of it is just if it's critical or urgent, you can somehow just magically bypass the system and we'll try to reconcile it later. But that's a huge mess. The other thing is just that they're often trying to privatize the supply chain. So it used to be that everything went through the DLA, the Defense Logistics Agency. Okay. They're essentially the world's largest distributor. Okay. But now, because of the backlog sitting with the DLA and all these other things, they're essentially contracting out different parts of the supply chain to third-party distributors. Good. Right? So these are large primes that essentially
manage these teams.
Yes, exactly. These are large primes that manage teams of people to make sure that they can just ship it directly to that military person or whatever it is, or ship through a military depot and get to those people. Yeah. So those are the guys that we are now really accelerating. So by sort of outsourcing, we can quickly sell into those kinds of teams.
One of the reasons I'm super excited about SalesPatriot is the fact that if you're AIifying that entire supply chain, manufacturing is moving back to the U.S. and presumably at a very fast rate.
Yeah.
But at the same time that's happening, robotics and space are taking off.
Huge.
It's going to be exactly the same technology. So if you perfect it in where you're perfecting it.
Complex procurement,
it'll be all robotics, all space, rockets.
All of it.
All of it.
It's a good segue. We do work with, and often, we started working with these teams' defense divisions. But if I'm a military distributor of bearings, I'm also a commercial distributor of bearings.
Yeah.
And so we started in defense, but now we are, we help ship all sorts of parts to SpaceX and other major companies that are doing this. So, as of now, we've quoted about $1 billion across all of the companies we're helping work with to all of these critical assemblies to all of the other customers that we're helping.
Yeah.
So there's definitely this sort of extrapolation of, essentially our supply chain is just going to become so much more efficient and faster. And we're going to have these agents communicating intercompany between a manufacturer, a distributor that's aggregating demand, and sort of the end customer. And I think that's probably where people start thinking, well, what is that distributor doing? And there's a whole bunch of really interesting reasons that distributor should exist and why it needs to exist inside of these different markets.
Yeah. Well, the other reason I'm super excited is because the military, did you see Alex Karp yesterday?
I did not, no.
On CNBC, so Palantir is saying, look, we're going to do an open source foundation model, like a world-class frontier foundation model in partnership with NVIDIA.
Yep.
And we're open sourcing it specifically because the government can't be doing stuff like you're doing with Dario or Google or whoever seeing every single thing.
Every single thing.
That's just not a viable way.
It needs to be running on-prem and at whatever it is at those sites.
Yeah.
And so this is also where some of the Han Lab stuff has started coming back into play, which is as we're talking to these very, very large companies that are managing these very critical supply chains, sometimes even classified parts.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to run that supply chain on-prem. How do we think about that? How do we manage that?
Well, so if I think about the three co-founders, I know you guys are all three super technical and probably a huge amount of overlap in what you can do. But are you really you're the Han Lab guy? So you're like all right, if we're going to do a foundation model for supply chain, logistics, military, you're the go-to of the three?
What does that look like? For sure.
Well, but of the three guys, are you that guy, or do you?
I would. I mean, certainly, if we were looking at that kind of sector, that specific problem and project, that would be my domain. Although I would say, across the three of us, Mache is incredibly operationally minded. He's also done a lot in the AI space, and often these problems are so large that it comes down to organizing the right people into the right places. And so, as of now, I'd say I spend, I don't know, maybe 1 day a month programming. We've gotten to that point now where there's just much more leverage in terms of finding and hiring the best people to go and be able to do those things. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about how we organize those people, the next projects and structures we're working on, and what does that look like. So one of the major things we've done is we're now sort of productizing the stack, right? So we're rolling out, instead of just saying, hey, this is SalesPatriot, the sort of core problems we're solving inside of these companies is you've got this crazy data layer, emails, spreadsheets, weird ERPs, old IBM systems, all of that. Yeah. You've got your operational layer, which is, how are people actually doing the day-to-day work, right? Clicking buttons, doing things, moving parts, double-checking different between, a sales order and a purchase order and all of these kind of stuff. And then you've got sort of this vantage layer, reporting layer, right? And so you can make up almost any business operation across these three stacks. This is something Palantir figured out pretty early on. And so now we're building this tooling and infrastructure to be able to support rapid deployment across almost, any kind of supply chain or infrastructure that we need to go into.
Yeah, no, it's all the same. Once you conquer this, it's just such a massive market opportunity.
It's a huge one. And so we're trying to figure it out.
So I want to ask you about either foundation models or forward deployed. Which one do you want to do first? They're completely different topics. But
wow.
We have to cover both anyway.
We have to get to both anyway. Let's do forward deployed first.
Forward deployed?
I think that'll be fun. And then we can do a pretty technical on sort of the foundation models and how we think I think it'll be good to do forward deployed first, because then we can address how that's changing these forward deployments and what are the role of forward deployed engineers sort of into the second half.
Okay, so this is where you're such an incredible inspiration for so many people. I don't even know if you realize, but you start this company.
I don't know. I don't think I realize.
Oh my God, we talk about
cool
you constantly around here because you're the only person, at least as far as I know, who at age 20 says we're going to build a forward deployed company. Almost everybody is scared to death of the idea of the onboarding of headcount, the training, the flights, the remote offices, and also I bet almost every one of your customers is like 40, 50, 60, 70 years old.
Yes. Yeah.
And your employees are all like 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
And this came up with Brendan Foodie at Mercor. It's like they'll say, hey, we're going to go meet at this bar to talk about our deal. And you're like,
what?
I can't go to a bar.
Took me a second
20.
there. Yeah. You figure it out. That's all I'll say. You figure it out. Especially in Texas or in Wisconsin, Midwest, you can.
Yeah. So that's got to be intimidating as all hell.
Certainly. Yeah.
Now you're a unique animal. Like I've never seen you appear to be intimidated by anything. But that's why you're so inspiring to other people, actually, because a lot of them will run and hide and they'll say, I can't hire people. I can't do forward deployed. And what really hurts them is this kind of religion now that, well, you can be $1 billion company with one employee. And they're like, well, if that's possible, I want to do that.
It's a weird operational constraint to put on yourself.
It really is. Yeah.
Maybe it's certainly maybe like a, I don't know, consumer app or something, one of these sort of mobile horizontal scaling things.
Yeah, video games and some of those areas.
But to put that
but
as
it limits you to like 0.001%.
Exactly. Yes, to put it as a constraint randomly because of something is
social anxiety
fallacy.
Or whatever. Yeah. But so walk me through the forward play. Like on day one, did the three of you say, you know what? For this company to succeed, we have to be forward. Like even the word forward deployed is not standard business terminology.
Yeah.
Where did that even come from?
Yeah. So it just became very clear to us. And if we are really talking day one, we're sitting in this Berkeley classroom calling, military contractors. And it just becomes very clear to us the age group that we're dealing with and that we're never going to get a deal done over the phone. Like we did get one or two like very small, mom and pop type manufacturers during that week. That was really great momentum into talking to Y Combinator and those kinds of guys. But what became like even more apparent in YC when we were still doing some initial cold calling was, okay, we'll get on a plane and fly out, sir. We'll be there tomorrow. Like, we'll, might as well go show up, see what's out there. We have no clue. We barely know who we're talking to. And so we actually we were cold emailing. We had sent up like lem lists. This total hack here. I hope MIT doesn't watch this one. Use your MIT email to email people that you're interested in. It has a super high response rate. I didn't tell you that. And so we were cold emailing.
Wait, hold on. This is really funny because you're at Han Lab, but you got into MIT, but then you actually didn't show up for your first class.
But I was issued an email, which was great.
as an incoming freshman or as a Han Lab
I think it might have been part of Han Lab actually. I don't know exactly which one it was, but I have an email and I was like, all right, well you got to use the resources around you.
That's awesome.
So we were emailing, really high response rate. So where we had a group partner say, cold emails are really low response rate. We're like, really? We've got like 5% of people we're emailing responding. This is great. And so we, I think it was maybe a week and a half into the batch, we had someone email us like, hey, this is really interesting. Let's hop on a call. This company, it's called Stotz Corp. They're the largest service-disabled veteran-owned small business set aside in the country. Okay. And we started talking with them about the procurement challenges that they were working on. And they were like, this is actually all we do. Our job is to look at the government contracts coming out and coordinate all of the manufacturers in the country to go and respond to these parts. Yeah. And we were like, wait, really? That's exactly that's what we're trying to solve just for manufacturers. Yeah. And that's where we make this leap. And then they're like, well, okay, what's next? Yeah. And we're like, well, we'd love to come out and visit you guys. Like, that's just the first thing on this phone call that I'm thinking. I'm like, well, I have no clue who the heck you are, so I might as well go check it out. Yeah. And I think that just kicked off the whole forward deployed thing. It just became very clear that in this industry, you have to do business in person, and we consistently win deals because we show up. We sit down for days to understand the customer's needs and requirements and make sure that there's we like to say at a sale, we're building trust, understanding, and excitement. First in the door, you have to do those three things. Or you're not going to be talking about multi-million-dollar contract. It's just you can't do that without those three things.
Yeah. This is, I don't know if you want to do any mentoring, coaching, podcasting on this topic, but if you look at the can't go to a bar yet, two young, mega successful entrepreneurs. There's you, there's Brendan Foodie, and there's one or two others. But the other guys. Like Brendan Foodie at Record, his customers are all in SF. He's got Meta and OpenAI, so he just walks down the street. There's a much bigger market out there of go to Oshkosh, or go to. Yeah. The military is got to be all over the country because every state has its pro rata.
Every state has its thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys must be flying to every little corner of the world.
Nonstop. Yeah.
That's going to be a much larger aggregate opportunity for startups.
Yes.
But you're the only guy I know, in the young AI native age bracket that's actually done it. So you're the only guy who can coach and mentor and teach and inspire. What does that look like? That's why we're talking about you all the time.
Interesting. Yeah. It's a really good point. I think that was certainly one of the things that probably got me most excited when talking with Nelson is just the intersection of people that I felt that knew about AI and knew about military procurement was like, I don't know, maybe at that point in time, 3 people, and I was talking to 2, like just such a small space when we were having that conversation 2 years ago, and it still really is. And so that's what's probably the most evident thing I've seen, where if I'm talking to a future founder or someone that's really excited to get into it, is just go talk to the most uninteresting business, because you'll find it's really interesting. Well, and go see what's going on.
Well, it's really good advice right now too, because if now you're 21, so you're an old guy now, but
graying.
But historically, being that age and getting to a Jamie Dimon or getting to a president of a large manufacturer, was damn near impossible.
Super hard.
Now in the age of AI, it's kind of the expectation that
you're going up the chain.
We were just talking actually before the podcast started about the fact that you're probably the first AI native. Like you were using the transformer in high school, and you were probably, you're 21 now. Transformer was invented in the attention is all you need paper in 2017.
Yep.
So 9 years, 21, so like 12 or 13 when the transformer's invented.
Yes.
So your entire sentient adult life has been watching AI get better and better and better.
Yes, like GPT-3 and like GPT-2. Like
Did you use GPT-2? Were you
I think I was GPT-3. GPT-3 was when I started using it and being like, well, this is not super useful, but cool. Cool that there's applications of this paper to other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, GPT-3 was sort of right around that moment that it became sort of clear to me that this was like, oh, this could be something really interesting, not just used for I don't know, language translation, which was what the paper was initially written for.
Well, GPT-3 was a lot like the iPhone 1, where you could look at it and you could come away saying, boy, what a piece of shit.
Yes.
Or you could look at it saying, oh my God, I can see where this is going.
Right. There's a lot.
So you're in the latter category where it's like, oh my God, I can see how this could change very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it has.
And it certainly has, and just really exciting to see. I mean, I think then there's no way I could have predicted all of this. It was just like, just a fascination that software didn't have to be deterministic. Mm-hmm. Like that to me was just what got me really excited. I'm like, oh, you can write programs where you don't know the outcome. And it's not just like a random number generator in there, right? It's like something that can actually do something maybe.
It has temperature. You can adjust the temperature and make it insane. Like,
exactly.
So give the crowd 3 bullets on what it's like to be forward deployed. What does it even mean? Like do people have remote offices? Do they work out of Airbnbs? Do they come back to the headquarters?
Yeah, for sure.
What is it like?
Yeah, I can give you sort of a week in the life. Maybe that'd be the most accurate. In terms of the 3 bullet points, first, I would say first is just it's brutal. It is not easy. You are spending your days at the customer site and your evenings working on the customer's problems, and so that naturally facilitates an environment where you have a huge advantage if you can just not sleep as much as other people, right? If you can sleep less than other people, that's actually a huge win, because often when you're forward deploying into a large company, the first week or 2 weeks of the deployment is where you can build a significant amount of trust and connection with the customer, and you really get them on this idea of, oh my gosh, these guys can do anything. And so the first week or 2 weeks of deployment is like nonstop. If you see a problem, you're solving it the same day, and you're going to try to figure out how to make that happen. And then you're coordinating with home base and our product team if that's not happening, right? Because you have this sort of like product layer, which is where we're pulling together all these applications, right? It's not just like vibe coded. We have these very specific ways that we want to manipulate and very opinionated on data. Mm-hmm. And then you're talking to the customer about their problems, and you're trying to apply the product into that environment. Yep. And how do you do that successfully? And the product is being developed at the same time. So you're not only managing the customer, you're also managing the product team, and then you're also managing just the actual implementation itself of where are we, what needs to be done, what needs to be solved, and who else do I need to pull into the room to go and get this done. So there's like the political side of the customer, there's the implementation side of the customer, there's the product team of figuring out what currently on the platform and product doesn't work that needs to be solved, and then you're doing that loop relentlessly over and over again.
So it's really hard. Got bullet 1.
Yeah.
The person that we're talking about is 22, 23
yeah,
years
probably
old.
around, I think our average age is like 25.
25? Ever been on a customer site of any sort at any point in their life prior to this? Okay, so they're coming into it.
One of ours, his name's Ben Slovan. He actually worked at a manufacturer before.
So one
has like had experience. One out of 3. And this is what's crazy is that again, because we're growing so quickly, but we have such a high requirement for who can be a forward deployed engineer. Our forward deployed engineers are like SEAL Team 6. Like they are really, really aggressive and intensive.
Well, SEAL Team 6 has a lot of training that goes on. Do you have like some kind of have a fake customer site inside the building?
It's live training, live fire, fire rounds. Yeah, so
accept the failure rate. Let's go.
100%. And so I think a lot of our first FDEs. I mean, we would go into the field with them, and we would go and solve the problems of the customer. And so they really got a sense of how much we were pouring into making sure these things were a success. Yeah. And I think that really set the sort of cultural precedent. So one is just, yes, it's incredibly difficult. It's incredibly brutal. You need to have what I like to call like a type 2 fun mentality, where it's like a little bit cynicism, like it's a little bit of like
a marathon runner.
Yeah, the pain game, right? Is like how we like to call it. Or, type 2 fun is like a cute way of naming it, where it's like maybe not exactly fun in the moment, but man, when you look back, you're like, wow, we survived that. That was pretty cool. So that's kind of it's really hard. And so that naturally facilitates a really particular subset of people. So right off the bat, it's like you're looking for that SEAL Team 6 mentality, but of engineers, right? Maybe not of athletics. That's a separate thing. The second thing I would say is having sort of and this one's maybe a little bit fuzzy, but I would say having this like social barrier, right? When I say you're managing the customer, it's not that you're saying the first thing that comes to your head. That's often not the right idea, and you're managing at everything from the supply chain specialist who's managing this paperwork to the middle level manager to the C-suite to the CEO and to frankly even to the board. We sit in board meetings now and talk to them about how.
See that a lot actually.
Yeah,
a lot of boards are going to a lot of management teams saying, "Get your AI shit together real fast, or you're all going to lose your jobs." And then they're like,
"All right, where's my guy? Where's my guy? Set him up."
Yeah,
right.
Okay, so then your guys who are like, again, 25 on average are going right to the board of a...
They're sitting in these meetings, $1 billion companies. And these distributors are managing, billions of dollars in inventory. And so you have to have that level of social understanding as well to know, I can't talk to this person about this. I need to be positive about this, negative about this. I can't tell them all the things we need to solve ahead. We can just focus on this problem. And then you're walking into an org cold and you need to manage the entire org's political situation. And so you're not only not sleeping and programming day and night, you are managing the political situation of a multi-billion-dollar org.
I'll bet, I've met a lot of companies over the years, but if you say what's the softest, easiest company that I've ever met to talk to, it's probably Ben & Jerry's. Like, it doesn't get any easier than that. Then the really hard ones like the Walmarts, those guys are tough.
Yes.
They're professionally tough. I'll bet the people who sell parts to the military are next level tough.
They're pretty intensive.
They're probably like physically intimidating.
Yes.
And they've been doing the same thing for 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
I was in a negotiation once, and I had and it hit this president, and I have a good relationship, but he gets up and he says, he was deployed on 2 tours.
Yeah, there you go.
Goes, I have burned villages. I have killed people. Like you will not
see my scars.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, good luck with this, right? We've been working together really well now. But there are definitely those exciting moments.
So give me the profile of your 25-year-old interfacing with this
scar
tissue dude.
That kind of person. Yeah. So again, first off, I think there's because of those 2 weeks, you build a lot of trust and rapport with upper level management. Yep. It is just clear to them that you are really dedicated and committed to solving the problem, not just putting the solution in, but making sure that the thing that we are set out to solve is going to be solved. And so that instantly creates this rapport, even if maybe you're not you're not like ready for that exact conversation. And so you can certainly talk to them at the operational level about the friction points you're seeing and those kinds of things. And so certainly that second bullet point is really important. And I like to think of it when I'm interviewing people as seeing that they are not immediately answering the questions or that they're trying to be a little deceiving, right? Like I want someone that I can tell has a bullshit factor, right? Like it's amazing that there's certainly people when I'll get out of a meeting, I'll be like, that was a good bullshit factor. Like I can tell he's playing the game or he or she and whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, that's good. Like you're going to need that on a forward deployment. And if I can tell a little bit, maybe these guys won't, right? And they'll train it and they'll make sure it's really good. So that'd probably be the second one is like managing complex social dynamics.
And type 2 fun. I love that definition.
Yeah, type 2 fun.
Anyone who can run a marathon or rugby player or whatever.
Yes, yeah. Certainly in the type 2 fun one, I'd say obsession is huge. I often ask people, have you ever been obsessed before and about what? I don't care if it was World of Warcraft or Legos or whatever it was. But if there is someone that is meticulously obsessive about something they've worked on in their life, they're going to do well at SalesPatriot. You have to have that level of just like obsession. And then let's see, I'd
so
say
that's just an interview question. How do you get that information?
Yeah,
you just ask them and say, give me the thing that you're most proud of.
Tell me sometime you've been obsessed and walk me through what that was.
How did it even occur to you to come up with that question?
I was talking with a lot of the people we had hired that we were really excited about, and just became very clear in these conversations and dinner time. That's the other thing. When you're co-living, you learn so much about people.
That's a good point.
And so you really get a good social understanding of how people operate.
That's why remote work failed so miserably.
So difficult, yeah. So and our forward deployed engineers fly back on the weekends to co-live. We have a chef come in on Saturday mornings, cook a massive feast after they've just like run a marathon, so to speak, kind of rejuvenate, rest, and start iterating on product. But yeah, it's not easy.
The very first thing I did after MIT was MicroStrategy, and MicroStrategy hired 3,000 people in about 2 years. This is back when the relational database had just been invented, and everybody needed a data warehouse. So it was very, every Fortune 500 needed one the same week. We all need a data warehouse. So okay, we're going to hire basically all of MIT, Dartmouth, and Harvard
to build data warehouses.
Things. But they were also all out in the field, and we would fly them home on the weekends. But then they later said, well, we can fly anywhere we want. We don't have to necessarily go home. So then they would all pack to either Vegas or Phoenix.
My home's
in
Vegas.
Yeah. That was really fun.
It's a lot of fun. I think in some sense, when you hire the right people into those roles, the fact that it's so intensive and so crazy is what makes them excited. It's like what makes them excited to do the job. And certainly right now, with what I call the rain coming in terms of just how many different implementations we now need to manage, those people are leaning in, and it's very exciting to see.
That's why I think Elon Musk. Are you an Elon Musk fan?
I am. I mean, as much as one can be. I mean, right? There's always many facets.
Have you met him yet?
I have not. No.
You will. I guarantee you will.
Maybe someday.
Oh no, because two reasons. One, because he loves people like you, and two, because what you're doing in the supply chain will ultimately matter a ton to what he's trying to achieve in space. So, you guys will definitely cross paths. But Elon is a huge inspiration for how much you can get done in a life.
Certainly.
And so then I look at people who are your age now. Elon got a slow start. He probably lost 5 or 6 years at the very front end relative to you, probably more like 7 or 8 years. Because he had to finish undergrad.
Sure.
He went to get into a PhD program.
Sure.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of time.
It is.
So now he's 55. But imagine if he had 6 or 7 more years. So now I think a whole bunch of people like you are like, I'm going to live the fastest possible life.
Yeah, but how much can you get done?
How much can you get done? So I'll bet a lot of the people who come and work for you have that same I don't care if it's like Navy, it's like SEAL Team 6.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's painful. At least I'm on the steepest conceivable curve through life.
100% steepest curve is the type of people we hire. I think a lot of people are future founders themselves.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, I see the operation, I see the operational excellence. I want to join that. I want to understand it, and eventually, I'd love to start my own thing.
Yeah,
and so
they're going to learn a ton about AI along the way from you, and everybody wins. I love that. All right, so that's 2. What's your third bullet?
That's 2. Yeah. So really, really, really hard. Having the social sort of expertise. It's interesting. What would I say is the third bullet, man?
Well, the question, just to rewind it. Some other 18, 19-year-old now is inspired by you, wants to be the next Ben Rhodes-Kropf. Is committed now to forward deployed based on what you said.
Yes.
What are they going to screw up? What's that third thing where they're going to mess it up and you can help them right now?
I guess.
What about age? Hiring, like you guys hired.
Yeah, we've
pretty narrow age bracket. Now you're
wider on both sides actually. Some of the guys we hire out of Poland are coming out of high school. Poland has these very highly technical high schools where they actually. Unlike the U.S. that believes in like this sort of broad set of learning skills, if you want to go to a technical high school, you will, and you'll learn only programming. So they're very pointy people. But so sorry to digress back to the question. I think the third point is actually having technical expertise and sort of, you can't vibe code at all. You cannot show up to a customer's facility and vibe code an integration with their major ERP.
Yeah,
like you're dealing with billions of dollars in transactional data. And as much as it's amazing what AI can do, not having that first principles foundation of, okay, I understand what a database is. Even that level of simplicity. I understand what a database is. I understand that it has read and write limits. I understand all of these sort of, these foundational things because I've gone and built these different types of projects or worked on different things. And so the third point I would say is building technical expertise, even in an age where you can vibe code. I think, you mentioned that I may be the first sort of like, the first full AI, generation or lineage, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was really lucky because I still had to learn to code.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I had to learn all of the syntax. I went through high school. You couldn't use AI. Only towards the very end of my high school experience.
How old were you when you started writing C#?
Goodness. I must have been like 14, probably around 14. I was using Scratch before that. The little block maker that at MIT came out with.
Yeah, I sure did.
Loved that. Loved making games in middle school.
What's that,
for
like
my
12,
friends.
13, 10?
Yes, yeah, that was probably like 10 or 11 at that point, making these video games. And I had to talk to my school's principal because I had made the video game too well and it was too popular in school. Yeah, I remember that. I was like, well, this is awesome. And that was a real joy. So seeing that I could make things that impacted people was like really a early start to that. But yeah, technical expertise.
So your point there is really interesting though. So some 14-year-old right now is not using C# because they're just going to vibe code and then they're not going to have that underlying skill.
Underlying understanding.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most interesting debate that I have with different people in terms of like, hey, AI is going to be so good we won't need to know how to code. I'm definitely in the camp that like, I don't know if it's like you need to know fully, but like, so maybe like the syntax can go away, but it definitely teaches you a way of thinking about things. Like programmers are just naturally more operational and understand consecutive things that need to happen.
Yeah.
Versus vibe coding is much more abstract and I need these buttons and floating things around and this kind of stuff. And so I still think there's a huge relevance if you're building the product, like the core infrastructure, or working on it because you're an early forward deployed engineer at one of these companies that's building this loop. You have to. You have to have some kind of serious technical background and have thought that through pretty well. And so I think that's really interesting. Even as AI gets better and better, what does that look like? How do you what does it mean to actually train someone, right? When do you give the kid the calculator, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, anyone who does a lot of vibe coding right now, you just run into these really weird bugs that are not like normal bugs because you don't even understand, the bulk of the code that was written.
No, yeah, the spaghettization of it is horrific.
It's wild. It's a very unique time that way. And then, if you want to debug it, you have to build higher level structures to even find out where the problem might be.
Yeah,
which is another form of debugging. It's just a new one, but it's the same technical. Like if you had that C# underpinning, you can get to the core of it pretty quickly.
You can go and find it pretty fast.
If it's all a big black box to you, you're just like...
No, you're like, I have no clue why this isn't passing through or this data doesn't happen or whatever it is. And so often that's a huge thing that we're working on. And, I do think that future forward deployed engineers will need less of that because they're not as integrated with the product team. Right now there's this really tight loop between what the product needs to be able to support the forward deployeds in the field. Yeah. So the forward deployed team is constantly iterating with the product team on what needs to be happening next, whether it's managing certain types of shipments or different things like that.
Yeah, it's amazing to think. Are you going to have kids someday? Have you figured that out?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know how many, but I'll figure that out.
Well, look, in industrialized countries like South Korea, it's 0.6 kids per couple. It's one quarter of the replacement rate. So it'd be great if you do have kids. Please do. But someday, you just think about the fact that you'll be saying before AI.
Before AI,
which is like some old guy telling you about before the car when we were riding horses. You're like,
and that's what I find so fascinating about it, right? I definitely get the sense that I'm sitting here saying, hey, you're going to need to know how to code or have learned some level of coding or some lower level understanding of this stuff. Yeah. And maybe the answer will be you don't. Because certainly, before calculators, we had to do all the addition by hand, right? And at the same time, we still teach kids addition. Yeah. And so, obviously, we don't teach people assembly anymore. So there's these levels to it, and it's hard to know exactly how that's going to play out.
Well, all that foundational knowledge is going to help you and the people you're hiring, no matter what. It's just a question of degree of how much it'll matter.
How much it matters.
Yeah. Do you drive a stick? You ever driven a stick?
I do. I rebuilt a Land Rover Defender in high school.
Yeah,
I had learned everything on YouTube, took the engine apart. It was quite the process, but it's a lot of fun. I love hardware. It is very cool getting to see some of that in some of the factories and warehouses I walk into, understanding how those components work.
Yeah, if you can jump in a Humvee that's a stick and drive it out, that's got to impress them.
It's very fun. I've gotten my favorite spot I've ended up is I got to lay inside of an F-15 engine.
No way.
It was very fun.
No way.
Yeah, it was cool. I was in a warehouse and this company takes apart C-130s and F-15s and then ships all the spare parts out to other militaries. And they just have a bunch of F-15 engines like freaking everywhere, man.
That's
I
so
walk into the
cool.
warehouse. I'm like, all right, this is awesome.
Oh, you got to send us a picture. We can splice it into our
Yeah,
podcast.
exactly. No,
It's
I cannot.
So awesome.
It's all CUI and controlled classified.
Damn it.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Oh, come on. All right, I'll vibe.
Yes.
Vibe up a fake.
Yes, vibe up a fake Ben laying in an F-15 engine. But it's a lot of fun.
How big is that? That's got to be.
I'd say it's like from the inner diameter. I'd say it's maybe 2/3 of this table, maybe about the same size. Yeah. I mean, they really pump fuel into it too.
The whole founding team in there.
Exactly, fit the three of us in there. We do
All
well.
Right, I'll vibe that up.
Cool.
All right, so line of questions number 2 here: the whole foundation model world. So, so let's say when you guys started a couple of years ago, like, how old is the company now?
So Nelson started it in that wire harness manufacturing 2 years ago. Now it's about a year and a half old from a incorporation standpoint.
Do you have like an anniversary you're going to celebrate or anything?
It was Mache's birthday. So whenever Mache's birthday rolls around, we have a celebration.
All right, so coming up on your second Mache birthday celebration.
Yes.
Okay. So that would have been after GPT-4. Around GPT-5, was 01 out at the time?
Yeah, right around from GPT-4 to 5. 01 was, I think it came out after we started.
Okay. So at that point in time, all these PDF files and Markdown files, easy to digest. But you couldn't do like complex planning. Coding was kind of half, it was autocomplete level coding. It was like 2 years ago, ancient history.
Yeah.
So that's where you started, right?
That's where we started, yeah.
And then it's probably like, what do you use now? Like, are you guys all Cursor users? Do you use Windsurf?
Yeah. So a lot of the guys actually they hop between. I think across the team there's not unified. A lot of people are now using Codex.
Yep.
And they call it. I think it's between like caffeinated and there's an application they run on their computers that keeps it always on. So even when they go to the gym, they're still keep working on their phones on that kind of stuff.
That.
And so, I think a lot of people are using Codex, but it switches every week or so. The team is reviewing what's out there. I think, our engineers are very interested in how quickly this is evolving. And so they're, okay, well, we'll go use that tool. We'll go do this tool. And then the other thing for us that's really exciting is we're building MCPs on top of all of our infrastructure that's helping us make these data connections. So the same way you might think of, a Palantir having some of these data connectors, we're also building that kind of infrastructure to go and help that kind of stuff.
If you wanted to do all procurement, how many MCPs do you think that would be? There must be many legacy systems out there.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to think about what we'll need for each. Certainly right now, we have our engineers building a lot of the, building a lot of the database integrations and connections are pretty fast from scratch because it's you can understand the schema and you can do those things, and as long as you have a good eye for it, you can use AI a lot to build it, but it's not scalable and it's not maintainable.
Yep.
One of the things that we've really first gone and built out is essentially these complex supply chain workflows where you need to be looking at a part, you need to be understanding where in the world it is, which marketplace it is, because often what people don't necessarily understand about distribution is when a part request comes in, you may not have it in stock.
Yeah.
And so, okay, where do I need to get it? And so now you're going into tons of websites, portals, emailing vendors, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it is often more highly structured than people think. And so often what it is you're building these complex algorithms to be able to support that, and you need visibility. So just throwing an agent at it is not necessarily the best answer. You need this kind of really high throughput infrastructure layer because you can't have errors, right?
Yeah.
So we've built this kind of very complex data workflow that enables us to map and transform data the way we want to do it. And we're using MCPs to then program that data workflow. So having very verbose configurations and then being able to use AI to set up those configs is how our forward deployed engineers are coding things. I think almost no one on the team uses Cursor anymore, which has been interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I still do. I mean, I don't code that much anymore, so I guess I'm getting left behind.
Yeah, I think Codex, if you have like 8 or 12 concurrent agents, Codex kind of cracked the code on that before Cursor did.
Yes.
Cursor has a new layer now that lets you manage it a little bit better. So, but they're going to keep catching up to each other.
They will.
But I bet everybody moved off Cursor when Codex got ahead in the.
Yes.
I bet all your guys are running the maximum caffeine-driven number of concurrent things.
Yes. Yeah. Although we don't have as much of the token burn problem. We're like cogs and all of that stuff, just because of how valuable the supply chain solutions we're building are.
Yeah.
That there's not this, even when the correction comes, we'll be okay. Like the faster we move, we recognize we're sort of one of the first to the race in terms of this type of weird supply chain.
Yeah.
And so if we can manage a large portion of the military supply chain, like that's a huge moment in terms of just what we can do from a being able to help with all sorts of different problems.
So supply chain, there's procurement, there's what's available, what's in inventory, but there's also like supply chain logistics and buffering and stockpiling and all that. Are you doing any of that yet?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the sort of next things we're rolling out. It's a really good product insight, is that once we are sort of helping people be their transactional layer, so thinking from quote to sales order to whatever it is, then you start understanding, okay, this is like, you're buffering, you're doing all these other weird things. What do we need to be buying more of? Yep. What's really interesting is, like 80% of a distributor's balance sheet is parts. And so it's really hard to actually know what they're worth. And so it's really hard to get bank loans. And so historically, most of distribution is owned by private equity.
A lending business, a SalesPatriot lending arm.
Right, exactly.
That's
awesome. So there's certainly applications there where, if, again, we want to be as aligned with our customers as possible. And I think there's a phenomenal world where we can go and provide a lot of value add in terms of helping them do their business better. Mm-hmm. And so there's certainly that aspect of it. Or just helping them make those better stocking and buying decisions. Because so much of distribution is now owned by private equity, the capital is not as much of the problem as evaluating and understanding the capital allocation is, right? The board members, these teams want to go and understand, hey, how are we allocating capital and what does that look like? How leveraged are we on these parts? Will these parts sell, right? When most of your stuff is stuck in inventory, you've got quite the problem there in terms of evaluating
also,
the business.
Most government, you tell me if this is wrong, but most government departments have a 10% small business requirement.
Yep.
Is that still around?
Still around. Yeah, we work with a lot of small businesses.
So then you're talking about, by definition, I don't know what the definition of small business is, but they're not going to be able to build their own supply chain logistics software system,
Yeah.
So they're all going to need to turn.
So we're certainly working with a lot of those kind of the small businesses, and then also really focused on the large guys as well. I think the value add of being able to solve some of these problems at scale is just so significant. And also distribution as a business is naturally what I'll call naturally aggregates, right? At scale, you have more buying power and you have more customers. And so with more buying power, you get things cheaper, you get better margin, you can pass some of that on to your customers. Yeah. And so you have this natural effect where, I'd say 80% of distribution is done by, 20% of the companies in distribution, right? These kinds of 80-20 or power roles, maybe even more aggressively. Yeah. And so really thinking about what does that mean? Well, the biggest thing is, one, being able to help those very large distributors has a major effect on the economy. Mm-hmm. Like solving one massive distributor's problem, it speeds up the entire economy. Really, the number of parts that go through these guys is just crazy. And so that's where we're really excited to be focusing is how can we help these very large enterprises.
There's so much efficiency to unlock there.
There is.
I'm super excited about that too. I'll tell you, my son Sean just got back from China.
Oh, no way.
And everybody thinks China has this massive robotics supply chain, which they do, and they build a lot of the world's robots. But when you look in the actual supply chain, it's people like doing physical wiring, just thousands of people.
Cables and wire harnesses are incredibly manual. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just crazy how non-robotic it is. Mm-hmm. And so now the whole mantra is bring manufacturing back to America, but it'll be automated, or a lot of it will be automated because that's sort of what's going on right now.
Yes.
And so it's going to be this whole new world. And Peter and I did podcasts at Figure Robotics, $40 billion valuation, and also at 1X Robotics, Bornick.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let us take the cameras back into the manufacturing area.
Right.
Which is sad because you go back there and you see how it's actually done. But they don't have suppliers for any of the motors.
Oh, yeah.
They have to make it all. They make the shirts that the robots wear because there's no material that can stand up to the robot.
And do that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we don't have the supply chain and infrastructure to be able to support that. Whereas it'd make a lot of sense for someone else to be making that part and these kinds of things, and then aggregating those components as well. I think that was the most fascinating thing that I learned about, which was just these distributors. It's important that they are buffering, right? That's actually their main job. Is if I need a part now, I get it. Yep. And you're willing to pay a premium for those parts to get in on time, and so. It'll be very interesting here as we have all these major industrial initiatives rolling out. I mean, already a lot of our distributors with sort of the data centers and stuff are seeing big boosts in terms of what they're able to accomplish.
Well, a lot of these things start with military. If you look at what's happening with drones, like a drone that for personal use to clean your gutters is not cost effective. But in the Ukraine, that drone is like, we'll pay whatever it takes. We need those drones.
Yeah.
So a lot of what will happen is it'll start with the military use case, then the supply chain will get built, SalesPatriot will manage it all, and then it'll move over to home use robots and rockets, and
whichever things it needs to be.
It's such a cool wave to ride.
It's a cool world to walk into, the intersection of sort of military, supply chain, and industrial base. AI, of course.
That's a good reason for people to get stock options.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
Is everyone a shareholder? Everyone you hire gets something?
Of course, yes, yeah. Everyone that is a full-time hire has shares and stock options. That's a big deal, and really, really exciting to be having those conversations with employees. Where when we're looking at compensation, that people are leaning in and saying, "Hey, I'll take it full equity, please." And that's always a great signal to see buy-in from the team.
So here's something that's really weird to me. So when I was doing my very first startup, wake up early in the morning, flip on AC/DC.
Okay, yeah.
Here we are, 40 years later, whatever. You guys, I heard, get up in the morning. I don't know what time it is, probably early.
Yeah, sometimes. It really depends on who you are and what teams you're working on and all of that. Yeah.
But I heard you say we turn on AC/DC.
We do. We've done Eye of the Tiger, but certainly
Eye of the
before.
Tiger, a little Rocky,
certainly early
okay.
on. One of the things though is now we're working with so many customers across the country, and then different people on different deployments are working on sort of different things. And so we've got some customers in the Midwest that wake up at 5 a.m. and start working. And therefore, if there's a problem, that's like 4 a.m., 4 3 a.m. California time.
Yeah.
And so often we'll have an engineer that's just gone to bed at midnight. If there's something that needs to happen, they're up and at it and then going back to bed. And so people, depending on the deployment you're assisting or helping with, people are on really different schedules. And so it used to be we're all waking up, and now as so many different customers and different demands and different things we're working on, especially with certain expansions to Europe and abroad, time zones are getting really weird.
Yeah.
And so, because we have a second hacker house in Poland as well, we have this cyclical nature of someone is up at all times.
So you've got one big one in SF or a couple?
One hacker house in San Francisco, one hacker house in Poland, and that sort of keeps all 18 people, fed and surviving on their mission.
What do you think a year from now, 2 years from now?
Oh goodness, I think a year from now we'll probably be at 80 would be my guess. I'm hoping to try to keep it sort of as lean and mean as possible. I think the communication gaps you run into in teams are just so lethal. Mm-hmm. And so having that sort of really aggressive mentality of sort of A players that really want to push themselves to their limit and making sure we consistently keep that, I think naturally attracts the next great talent, even though it's a very small pool of people in the world. So I think, hiring is certainly a bottleneck that we see and we invest a lot into. Podcasts and going and talking.
Is that why we're doing this? I was kind of curious.
Certainly a large part of it. I mean, I always have fun having a chat as well. But
but we're recording this particular one, so it's
why not?
Why? I guess recruiting.
Yes. If you're interested in joining SalesPatriot, definitely reach out.
Yeah.
So that I think 80 would probably be the right number.
Yeah.
I would much rather scale slightly too slowly, but building an incredible just reputation in the industry. The military space is so small that delivering products really well on time, I think that's what will make sure we dominate in year 3, right? Yeah. And so certainly on the military side, thinking about it that way, and then maybe more towards commercial, we'll have a much faster, quicker expansion.
Yeah, there's an interesting foot race going on there too, because the ability to maintain a super tight SEAL Team 6 kind of culture scales until you have people you don't even know their name. Mm-hmm. So that's right around 100 people.
Yes.
And after that, you're like, who is that guy?
Yeah.
So it's about 100 is the upper limit of that. But AI is improving at this exponential rate.
Yes.
So there is a world where you can go to 100 or 80 and then get to infinity.
Yeah, see what you can do.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's certainly part of the bet there, which is we'll see. Certainly it's something we're constantly evaluating. I don't think we certainly don't set hiring targets. We see what we need and we try to project it forward, although often it's just very clear that we need to be growing our forward deployed team. And then if we're finding someone amazing, it doesn't matter. Did we slightly overhire this month? Did we slightly underhire? They're amazing. Come work for us. Let's go do this, So, you often don't know what you're going to hit. And then certainly I think that's what's interesting is the bar that's what changes. Is if we're really, really needed, we can lower the bar slightly and then try to get them to where they need to go. And so those are some of the tests we're taking now, where can you hire someone that has, phenomenal social management skills, and is it worth the investment to go and train them up a little bit more? Certainly not at seed, more towards a Series A is where you can take some more of those bets and sort of find those.
Well, walk us through the capital raising trajectory then too. What did you do originally? And then I know we were there day one, which is great. That's
that was amazing.
That's our highest calling. Like that's what we're here for.
That's a big deal.
But then what happened since then?
Yeah, so we did like pre-seed, pre-YC with you personally, and then went through Y Combinator, ended up doing our seed round, which Link Ventures was a part of, which was amazing to have on board.
Did you do that YC demo day closing, or did you close it before?
Closed before.
Did you skip demo day then completely?
We were actually in Dubai, and it was like Jared called us and he was like, "Are you guys like, is this happening? Are we doing this?" We're like, "Well, we raised, and like we're doing with 7 other things. Like, okay, we'll be there. Like we'll figure out." We did make it out there. We flew back for a day. Did the demo day.
From Dubai.
Mache and Nelson did. I think I was East Coast at that point. Flew all in, did the demo day, did the, it was an awesome moment. I'm really glad we did commit to that, and then flew back to doing whatever
I literally just went in March from Riyadh to California direct. That is opposite side of the world.
It's crazy that exists.
Time shift.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm used to like this 8-hour or 3-hour or 4-hour time shift.
Yep,
that was like hard.
It's a lot.
Hard. Maybe easier for you.
I think because so everyone, some weeks, I know the week has gotten a little out of hand when I no longer care about the time zones we're operating in. But yeah, so we did YC, we did the seed, and now we're sort of gearing up for that. I think there's certainly some large deals on the table, and we're sort of excited for what's next. I think that's probably the most I can say right now about that.
Okay. But you're not, it's a good time to get on board. You're not like marked up to 10 trillion yet.
No, so, maybe not.
I mean, you can still give like the 409A valuation, and the options are probably based on the last round still.
Yes, exactly. That's
the key.
This is your moment. Yeah, if you're on the edge about SalesPatriot, join now.
Yes, don't wait.
Really start moving. Yeah, so that's I think, and I think we've been very conscious about when and why we would do something like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that has made sort of all the difference in terms of we certainly had some earlier offers to go and do that kind of thing, and we just didn't feel like that capital at that moment was going to actually get us where we needed to be. And now we're really getting there in terms of feeling confident that capital would actually go and make the differences we want to go and apply into the business.
Yeah. Well, let me shift gears on you again here and talk about your perfect life. Do you view yourself?
Oh man,
as, I know it's a hard one.
That's a hard one.
Hey, we don't have to. We can cut anything out.
No. I don't mind.
But I'm always curious. Somebody who's clearly hyper ambitious, willing to work whatever amount it takes to succeed.
Yeah.
Those people don't go away. They don't disappear on some yacht and they become huge. I've seen this so many times over the years, but it's like a permanent attribute. So then, you've got Elon raising the bar on how much you can get done in a life. Like, do you view yourself as a serial entrepreneur, as an investor? Are you going to go into government and fix DOGE? What?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, I think the thing that gets me really excited and up in the day is like just the being able to work on really hard problems with really interesting people. Mm-hmm. And so like. That and of course seeing success. Like, we're here to win. That's what we're going to go and do. Yeah. And so those 3 things in sort of whatever environment I'm working on is just awesome. And then in my perfect life, being able to watch the team members we're working with meet the scaling demands that we're meeting, such that we are constantly coaching the next team of people to go and execute on that next mission. Yeah. And so I always get a lot of joy when I can see a team member that we've been working with a lot, or I've been coaching in terms of, hey, this is how you do deal with the customer, or hey, that was a tough conversation you just had with that team member. How could it have gone better? These kinds of things, and watching sort of the next group of people in the company go and mentor the next group of people is really exciting. So I think as long as I'm getting to work with really, really sort of people that I trust and believe in and are smarter than me in all sorts of different ways, I think I'll be very excited to be working on whatever it is we're trying to solve.
It's amazing how hand in hand those things go too, because if you look at a lot of people who succeed early in life, say I have this charitable mission, I have this other mission I want to pursue too, but because it doesn't have a cap table, with a rising stock. The people that you're used to dealing with, like the hyper smart, really awesome people that you want to meet, they don't arrive. They don't come. And you're like, this isn't quite going the way I envisioned it. So then they go back and start another company. This is exactly the case that Sam Altman made in court recently too. Like if we're not a for-profit thing that's changing the world, where they're irrelevant, and if we're irrelevant, then the talent
leaves.
It leaves or it doesn't come. And then the whole thing is meaningless anyway.
Yes.
So it's a very American kind of thing, actually. It is. Very much missing in Europe.
It is. And that's always been very fun for Maciej and I to have those kinds of conversations.
Yeah. Well, so he grew up in Poland.
Grew up in Poland. Yeah. I think just outside of Warsaw. I'm going to butcher it. But yeah, just outside of Warsaw. He could definitely speak more on that. But whenever we do have a moment talking about the cultural differences and what Poland needs to do to become a really successful, entrepreneurial company or country, I should say, though I suppose most countries also function as companies. And it is really fascinating to think about how much of it is culture, how much of it is like, post-Soviet certain things and like these deeply embedded things you don't realize the water you're swimming in. And so that's one of my favorite things. It's just that the company comes from such a diverse group of perspectives, whether it's, a whole team of, high school and college age guys coming out of Poland or we have some engineers from, Canada and Australia. And so, I'd say they're all deeply American in terms of their ideology and beliefs, but certainly being able to understand sort of their cultural backgrounds and heritage of how their families think about things and how their communities think about things. I'd say they're all outliers on those aspects. And so that always makes for some really interesting conversation. In fact, we have some engineers that are very religious. And so I have an engineer that goes every day, or I think like every other day to church.
Every other day?
Yeah. He knows. A lot. Yeah, he's like really interesting background. But it's those are the things, right? Working with really fascinating people on these problems that come from a wide range of viewpoints just naturally.
Do you have a bunch of people that have come from Poland? I mean, you have the Hacker House there.
Yeah. So as of now, I'd say, right now we're working on sort of all the immigration and paperwork. We will sort of be moving as many people as we can over to the U.S. just because keeping those teams tight and cohesive for deployed and product team as many touch points as possible is really, really great. So we're working on that. And then I think we'll always have, the talent in Poland is just so incredible. Yeah. I mean, people are just so incredibly hardworking, and it is a cultural thing. I mean,
I think this is a really important topic, actually, especially in San Francisco, because there's so much capital and so much opportunity in San Francisco, and then there's this big world, especially when I look at Europe. When you go to China and you're like, okay, this is how things work in China, but the people are Chinese. Mm-hmm. You go to Europe and you're like, wow, nothing's happening here, but that exact same human being ported to San Francisco, you'd be like, I don't like it's the exact same human being, but you can't get anything done over there, and you can get everything done over here.
It's in the water.
It's in the water, and I keep telling people in Europe that I bump into that have an aspiration to build something, like just come to the U.S. Just find a way, because by the time things get fixed in Europe, it's over. Mm-hmm. It's just too late.
Yeah, it's quite possible. There's certainly that sort of brain drain aspect of it, and that the pooling of I mean, that's what America has always been incredibly good at.
Yeah, exactly. We're like the only country that I know of, maybe Argentina and a couple others.
But sort of like, hey, come for your education. We want.
We're really just like this talent magnet from all over. And actually within the country, there's a couple of spots, notably Boston, but especially SF.
Yeah.
Where it's a magnet within the magnet.
Oh, yeah.
So then, like, if you're not there, it's like you might as well be nowhere.
It's spiky. It's very spiky, which is just fascinating. And I do think it's interesting being, if I were in the shoes of some of those leaders, how do you account for that? And, how do you make it really favorable even to go to somewhere like San Francisco and then come back?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of one of my policies, even when you're thinking about, students dropping out of MIT and those kinds of things is, if the Renaissance was happening, would you keep all the people in your castle and not teach them any of the really interesting artisan work? Would you send them, to these places where the Renaissance was occurring, teach them those things, and hope some of them come back to their, families, communities, and cultures?
Yeah.
And so that's maybe a belief I've held for a while.
Historically, about a third do come back. So that's plenty.
Plenty.
We had last week we had ClawComp here, competition, like a hacker competition using AI, Claude bots or whatever. Actually, that's the logo.
I love it.
But one of the team that won was from Ireland.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, we want to do this for real. how do we do it? I'm like, well, it's pretty obvious. We'll fund you tomorrow, but you got to
you got to come here. You got to be part of this environment and ecosystem.
And they love Ireland, and I love Ireland too. It's
yeah.
And Ireland is very entrepreneurial by European standards, but still, just come here. You'll kill it. Then you'll have the capital, the know-how, whatever, a bunch of connections, and then you go back and do it in Edinburgh next time.
Do it again. Yes, or get the next generation to do it and sort of build that foundation.
Poland's probably extra unique in that it's right next to Ukraine.
Yes.
And I'll bet people are gritty and urgent and crazy smart.
Very direct, very smart, very hardworking. We do have a Ukrainian on the team who is just like, he really senses the mission and is like, okay, we need supply chain to be faster. And he watches the parts go out, which is very cool.
That's so cool. All right. This has been awesome. So let's see, anything on the list here that we didn't touch on that you want to talk about, or anything you want to say for purposes of
for purposes of hiring.
Well, anything that makes the company succeed is good for us too. So
I appreciate it. Man, I mean, I think we've really gone across done the spread here. I'd say, if we're talking about the purposes of hiring, I'd say the biggest thing is, wars are won with logistics. And we really believe at SalesPatriot that we're helping win those wars. And so that's a big factor for us. And so if you sort of believe in that defensibility and sort of the West strength, then definitely reach out. And if you have technical abilities, we're really excited to talk with you and see what you got.
Is there anything really unusual that you do specifically to build culture, or you just let it happen by nature of the?
It's really interesting. I was chatting with some investors, and I think about this a lot in terms of like, man, if I was a VC, how would I be investing, and like, what would that look like? And I think it's so fascinating to me how much I think YC's premises make something people want, right? And it's amazing how I think most companies and teams should be able to achieve that metric, make something, and then maybe the physics of your business don't work, right? That's a sort of secondary thing that's really hard to know from the onset. Yeah. And yet, I think the success rates of startup companies is still really, really low, which is really interesting to think about, even if you're aggressively saying, hey, just find a problem and solve that problem, and who knows whether you'll make money, but like go see if you can get the first customers and do those kinds of things. Yeah. And I think it occurred to me the other day that just how many touch points it takes to sort of align people into the right direction and right formation. It's like all the little nuances and that's interesting. How do you act in a certain moment? How do you react to someone doing something? Those kinds of things. Yeah. And so I would say that to me, I have no clue how to measure it as a venture capitalist. Like I would have no clue how to sit down and look at someone and say, well, how do you think about leadership and how do you think about these things? But especially in the age where you can build anything at any speed, like aligning people and aligning around a mission is like something that I would be testing more and more for. It's like highly technical, and then people alignment skills, which I have no clue how to test for. Yeah. But like that to me would be sort of an insight I've been thinking a lot about. Yeah, recently.
We tend to get lazy on that topic because right now all boats are rising with the tides so quickly that if you have the technical skills, you're going to succeed. It's just a question of scale of success.
Yes, yeah.
So we just invest regardless. Mm-hmm. But then you're right. Then the outcomes range tremendously based on exactly what you just said. Mm-hmm. But because everything is going well, we don't really think it through, but we should, because it's not always going to be, this moment in time where everything is just gold.
Yeah.
And also you can potentially teach it, especially with some AI assistance.
Yes. Yeah, certainly. And I think one of the interesting things there is sort of the very nature of doing a pitch is self-selective towards this type of people. Yeah. Right? Like, sometimes this I find very interesting with especially very smart VCs who will listen to a pitch and then like rearrange the pieces and be like, that is a good business, but if you did X, Y, and Z, right? Like I can see how this would be a phenomenal business. They rearrange the pieces for the person, and then they say, okay, I'll invest. And the problem there is not that you've just made a better business, right? Or that they might follow it or not follow it. It's that they didn't necessarily see that or sell you that vision, right? Because in the beginning, your company, you can be anything, right? You can sell whatever you want, right? And so how do you basically when a pitch is good, that means they've also mastered the art of the sale and the social navigation of those things, which I think goes back to that second point of being a forward deployed engineer.
It comes back to
the barriers.
You being the the very first person on the planet who's going to be able to say to great grandkids someday, before AI, blah blah.
Way
blah.
Before AI.
The headwinds right now are a joke compared to the tailwinds. Like there's never been a better time.
Oh my goodness!
And plus, there's probably no point in history where I would be able to interact with somebody like you, going like this, where you're succeeding wildly, but you're still at this young, incredibly high energy ideal. Usually, historically, you'd have to hit age 28, 29, 30 before you had anywhere near the connections, gravitas, whatever.
Yeah.
I just love the way things are shaping up.
It's
right
awesome.
Now. It's so much fun for me.
It's an awesome world that we're headed into, and I'm certainly an optimist about just humanity in
Did
general.
you think you were born to be ambitious or something in your childhood? Like, is there a Ben Rhodes-Kropf born in some village in Antarctica or something like that?
Yeah.
That just has no ambition whatsoever, or is it just in your DNA?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, certainly incredibly fortunate just about circumstance from a, first just which country was I born into, right? Like, some of this stuff, right? But beyond that, I'd say I have always very much like naturally enjoyed trying to solve problems with people. Like, I think that is just a natural. Like, I think I've gotten significantly better at it, but that was always a very natural, like, oh, this is very fun, like very addictive to going and doing complex problems with people. And so I think that was probably something I had zero control over. And so certainly I think a lot of it is just like nature versus nurture, right? And man, I'd say, I don't know. I'd say it's probably, maybe being the cynic in me says it's 75% sort of nature, 25% nurture. And then I think often what I'm measuring when we're hiring people is what's the delta on that? Like how much can we exponentiate someone's nature and nurture, right? Like you can sort of take someone's natural talents and improve them. But how do you do that sort of properly and well? So I don't know. Maybe that's a cop-out answer, but I think that's at least how we're.
Well, I know being a role model like you are, and also people become the average of the people around them. So if you keep that talent density high, then it percolates kind of naturally, and it's contagious. But it all starts from you guys, you three as founders. So, well, congratulations! This has been an absolute blast.
A lot of fun. Yes, thank you for having me.
Oh God, thank you for coming.
Of course.
Anytime you want, let's sit down and.
Yeah,
I know you guys are on a huge trajectory right now, so it'll probably be news to talk about a couple months from now.
Yes, give it some time. We've certainly got some very large things in the works that we can't always share because of the nature of the space we work in. But very excited.
Well, really lucky also that your parents are here, so you have to come back sometime, like Thanksgiving or something.
Exactly. There's a natural cycle to it. Yes.
We're gonna go check out Blitzy.
We're going up. I love it. The vlog, the documentary Vlog Life is coming back. Oh, thank you. Here we are. New headquarters. Very exciting. Oh man, nothing like opening an elevator straight into headquarters. That's always good. Last night I watched what's his name? Doing the cars? Auto sales.
LaTeX.
Yes, LaTeX.
LaTeX.
I met those guys when we were at
Emerson?
Innovation at Google's headquarters.
How did you see him last night? Did you see him here?
No. I saw the podcast.
Oh.
I watched that. I was like, I've got to do some research. I was on a flight. I figured I'd look at what you guys put together.
How old were you on founding day?
20. Although the real one is Mache.
Let's see.
Wow.
Look at this. All right.
Quite the. I like the circle. Someone's having fun.
Dang. This is what happens when you raise how much? 50 million? 100 million?
Something like that. Values are important as you go beyond 20 people. Values are very important.
What are the SalesPatriot values?
Oh goodness, we've been talking about them recently. Customer comes first. This is a very strong one. We work for the customer. There we go. I'd say we're here to win was probably number 2. And then number 3 is just we're here to challenge ourselves beyond what's reasonable.
It's very win-oriented.
Yep. And then that's probably less of ours. We're here to challenge ourselves beyond what's reasonable.
Yeah.
I'd say that's
good.
That's a core SalesPatriot
Yeah,
tenet.
I think there's something about manufacturing coming back to the U.S. and patriotism and all that too.
Yes, 100%.
It's super cool. Hey, how's the new Blitzy place?
It's unbelievable. We're loving it.
So cool. Oh, this whole door? This whole wall opens up?
Are you guys, you're still working out of the Airbnb in your underwear?
Yes.
You want to do the Mark Pincus
the fastest commute. Yeah, I had Jared over to the house the other day, and we were chatting about how Facebook got his start because he was one class below.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how they just kept growing into other houses in the neighborhood. So the house across from us is open, and we may go that way. We're also looking at like an aircraft hangar in San Francisco. That'll probably serve us a little bit better, but still co-living, living and working right next to each other, keep the commute short.
Aircraft hangar in San Francisco. I can't even believe that exists.
Yes, yeah, it's quite the warehouse.